Hey, hey. Good morning, good afternoon, good day, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. I'm PL Stewart. It's about 9 o'clock here, PM Eastern, in beautiful Canada. I am joined by an absolutely fabulous guest, someone who I've watched. We're talking about stage. I've watched as they grow into this very dynamic and very compelling force in not only the writing world, but the booktube world. Michael's someone who like me and a few others, does this double duty thing as author and booktuber. And it's I'd like to say that I'm not patting myself on the back. I'm sort of giving him credit. It's a lot, right? That's a lot. That's a lot to do. And
Oh yeah.
we're gonna find out what drives him to do that. We're gonna get into his writing and everything. But I just need to welcome the wonderful Michael Vadney to Six of Melter Interviews. How you doing, sir?
I'm good. Thank you for gassing me up right there. I'm not gonna be able to walk through the doorways. My head is gonna be so big. Uh, really glad to be here, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
Oh, I'm so honored. The honor is mine, and the pleasure is mine, sir. I feel like, first of all, I had the privilege. Unfortunately, I don't have my physical copy yet, but it will get here eventually. Of and
I'll hold
throwing
one
there
up.
you go, Crownfall. Michael's debut. I'm sure most of you out there who are in spaces such as I occupy have seen that somewhere because it's been picking up a lot of traction. The author who I have here with me today, I have to say, and I said this to Michael backstage, and I will say this publicly, and I also said it in my recent review that I posted on Before I Go blog. Check that out, and Goodreads of the book. That it is frankly one of the like without question one of the most polished debuts I've read. Period. And I read a lot. I think I've read a lot of books,
Yeah.
and it's rare that I find essentially a novice author that the writing smooth. It's the prose is great.
Thank you.
The characterization is fantastic. The action scenes are amazing. The it it does not read like the work of someone who is penning and putting out their first book. But there's much more than that I have to give Michael Kudas for. I think the presentation, the marketing campaign to promote the book, this is someone who everything that he does, basically speaks. The only word I can use is professionalism.
Thank
Um,
you.
so, and I'm not. This isn't an ageism thing. But I am very impressed to see that from someone so young, frankly, that has this. You know, Michael brings a sense of panache to the things that he does. It's clear. You watch his YouTube videos. You see him on social media. He's got that kind of it factor. But I'm curious, Michael. We're
Yeah.
gonna talk about the writing. We're talking about anything else, but I want to, if you don't mind, I want to start with the book two part.
Yeah. Yeah.
What made you decide to have a YouTube channel, to do it the way you did it, and what made you decide to do it parallel with your writing?
Yeah. Really, it was a lot of research. Being a writer, being an author is something that like I've always wanted to do, but never really had the courage to admit to myself that I wanted and the courage to really like actively pursue it until I was getting like really close to 30. And then I was like, I'm at a space in my life where I've got a lot of stuff figured out. I have the job, I have the wife, I have like everything is working out. So, you know what? I have space. Let's finally admit this to myself. Let's finally try to be an author. And the ultimate goal for me is I want to be a full-time creative. I want that unicorn dream. So when I decided that, I started doing some research. I looked into Brandon Sanderson. I did a bunch of things on YouTube with like videos and other creators who had eventually gone full time. And the repeating advice that I was seeing for a lot of things was you need an audience, you need a platform, you need something in order to garner those eyes, because as indie authors no one's going to shout about your book unless you shout about your book, and you need people to shout about it too. So I looked at what were my options, and I saw a bunch of videos, like I said, from Brandon Sanderson and from Daniel Green, and how they talked about like podcasting and social media and like short form media and stuff like that. And I thought, okay, a audio only podcast is something I can do. I've never done a podcast before, but I had actually gone to college for a broadcast communications degree that I never used. Uh, I went to school, I got out of school, and it was just, oh, I hate every job I could possibly get with this degree. This was a mistake. And eventually I fell into something that worked out. But as far as the podcast went, I was just like, okay, I can do this. I can get a cheap mic. I can start doing the audio only podcast. And when I first started, I just talked about the things I was learning as I was trying to learn to write. I learned about outlining and story structure. Boom, I do an episode on that. I learned about some more tropes. Boom, I would do an episode about that. And then eventually I met Adrian M. Gibson, who is one of the hosts of the SFF Addicts podcast. And through his encouragement and just through the relationship I developed with him, I eventually got the courage to start doing interviews. I reached out to CM Kaplan. Connor was my first interview, and I sent him a message like cold, and I was just, "Hey, I've never done this before, and I'm kind of figuring it out as I go. But would you mind being my first guest?" And he was super excited, super kind, very gracious. A a really good first guest if I could ever ask for one. And I did it and it was fun and it made the podcasting a lot easier because an interview requires a lot less prep than doing like a 15-minute lesson takes more time than doing a 45-minute to an hour long just shooting the shit conversation. And so I started doing that. And then eventually, when I felt like I got a hold of doing interviews and got a hold of doing the audio only podcast, I was like, okay, let's take it a little step further and try to do a video. Let's hop onto YouTube because, in general, visuals do better than audio only. And you can always port the stuff over to audio only from the video. And I kept doing it. And now, actually, God, this is pretty wild to me. This month on August 17th, I'm going to have my 100th episode of Author Adjacent after doing this for about like 2.5, 3 years. And I did all this initially because I wanted to build the platform. But what I found along the way was like the thing that I really got the most out of it was just talking to other authors, talking to other people in the industry. I learned so much from that and gained way more opportunity than I expected simply just by existing because I have a platform now that I've built up. It's not huge or anything. I'm still growing and I'm very happy with where it's at. But I have a platform that I can bring other authors on and talk and promote them and talk about their books. And then because I do that, I've built this relationship. And now the next time they're thinking about a project, sometimes my name comes up and I get a door open that I wasn't expected. And it's a really unexpected bonus to doing this. But it also just like, oh God, there's so many cool things about it. All the friendships that I've made have also been really cool. Like I mentioned Adrian earlier. He's become like a mentor to me in the indie space, and I know we're going to talk a lot about like the book tour and a lot of the like social media stuff that I've done. And I will definitely say that a lot of what I do, I learned from him and learned from other people within the community of just looking at like what worked for them, what didn't work for them, and trying my own version of it.
Well, you're very humble because I think that your platform is only going to grow exponentially, and a lot of people
Thank
talk
you.
about it. How slick? I don't mean that as a pejorative. Slick, as in again, I use the word polish. Professional. Engaging. Like those are the
Thank
words that
you.
people use to describe what you do with author adjacent. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of Adrian as well. Couldn't ask for a mentor. So kudos to you on
He's a
that.
great guy.
Oh yeah,
So for like so giving.
yes, he's absolutely fantastic. But I get the same vibe from you that you're that kind of person too, that you
Thank
can
you.
show up yourself and and I think like attracts like in that
Mhm.
respect, but also dynamic. That's a word that I always use to describe Adrian, and I'd attribute that the same to you, that dynamic, that it factor, right?
Thank
And
you.
but at the same time, Michael, it's a lot of work, right? And
Yeah.
you're an author, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure if you're full time, or if you're still, you have other jobs and endeavors, but you're an author and you do more than that. You blog, like
Yeah.
you write reviews and all kinds of things. We'll get into that too, but it's a lot of work, right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how do you manage it? How do you find the time? What's priority? How do you juggle
Mhm.
this thing?
Uh, it's a lot of things. One, I would say I have a huge advantage that a lot of people in this space don't have, and is that I don't have kids. So that is a huge responsibility. Like I am married. I have a wife, and we try to make sure to spend like quality time with each other and stuff like that. But adding kids into it does change the whole dynamic for a lot of people. And when I see authors like killing it and they're doing all the things and they're taking care of like a full like regular sized family and everything, I'm like, wow, that is amazing to me. Like that blows me away that people can do that. And I'm always very impressed with it. But as far as like everything else that I do, I kind of take this mindset of my goal is to be an author. Like that's the pinnacle, that's the thing that I want. And everything else has to feed into that. And if it doesn't, I try not to do it or I try not to spend a lot of time on it. And I like you can throw an unlimited number of hours into social media, into doing the podcast and stuff like that. But ultimately, if I'm not writing a book or writing a story, why am I doing it? And
That's
that really helps set my priorities.
That's very wise advice. Very wise advice. And it's hard, I
Yeah.
feel, especially someone like yourself who has all these diverse things going on and all these irons in the fire.
Yeah.
And for all of us that do the same sort of thing, yeah, to stay focused on, hey man, I gotta buckle down and get this many words done,
Yeah.
and but at the same time, I think there is a symbiotic relationship between a lot of things that you do, a lot of things that people like Adrian does, even myself, but it does all indeed, as you said, feed that and fuel potentially that entrepreneurial enterprise, because it's not
Oh,
just the
yeah.
writing, it's the business
Yeah.
side of writing, it's the marketing, it's promoting your work, it's all the things
Mhm.
that come with publishing a book, formatting, and all the million things that are involved in trying to,
Yeah.
for a lot of us, be somewhat profitable and decide,
Yeah.
on where we're going to spend our money, whether it's on a cover artist or editing or what, all the things that go into being a self-published author. So, but I think from what I can see, you're definitely on a path to success
Thank
with
you.
everything that you're doing. So, I want to give
Yeah.
a quick shout out, sorry, to
No, you're good.
Herman Funter. Hey, what's up?
Hey Herman. Hope you're doing well, buddy.
Hope you're doing well. Thanks for coming out. He says that's better. I think he was on the wrong account earlier for him, and he switched over. So, thanks so much for coming out and supporting Michael and saying hello. Um, So, you also blog and you write
Yes.
reviews, fantastic reviews.
Thank you.
Can you speak a bit about that? Like how that all got started, what you do there, which
Yeah.
site?
Again, it was another way to engage with the community, and it was a cheap way for me to help boost other people and to engage with the community because I'm going to be reading these books anyways. I like to read. Clearly, I'm here for a reason. That's part of it. And I feel like the second best way you can learn to improve your writing, which I'm very much early in my career, I'm very much trying to push to be better with everything that I do, is to read other people's stuff and figure out why was it good? Why did it work for me? Or why did it not work for me? And who did it work for? And just really thinking about what makes good stories good and what makes okay stories not quite land for me. And I do that by reading other people's stuff and I took notes on it. And I'm like, I'm doing 9/10 of the work of writing a review at this point. It doesn't take me much more to write it and put it out into the public. And especially, it's super important for indie authors to be getting more ratings and reviews and all those difficulties that it is to gain all that stuff. So it's a super easy way for me to, again, support more people in the community. And I was doing that for a while, just posting them on Goodreads and stuff like that, and just talking about them on Author Adjacent sometimes. I have a few episodes where like I really digged into my reviews of stuff. It's not something I do often, but every once in a while I like to. And eventually I got reached out to by Fanfi Addict to start writing reviews for them. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to be doing all this work anyways. I would love to join their platform. It's a good group of people. Again, like Adrian's over there and stuff like that. And I asked him about it, and it just seemed like a really good idea for me. So I got over there and started doing that. And yeah, it's been really enjoyable. Like, it's nice to have other people to talk about stories and stuff like that, because we don't always have that with everybody in our physical life. And that's why a lot of people come to the internet to talk about books. And through joining Fanfiatic, I've been able to join the Spiffbo judging team for this year's Spiffbo competition, which I believe you are as well for Here We Go blog. Or are you just doing Here We Go blog?
I was a judge.
Okay.
I was on this Spiffle team for Before We Go blog. I haven't done
Mhm.
that in a couple years, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I've done it in the past, and it's amazing.
Yeah, this is my first year doing it. It's really fun. It's a lot of reading, but I'm also reading things that have never heard of, which is really nice. It's always nice to find like these gems out of nowhere, which is the whole point of the competition itself.
Yeah, and again, you write fabulous reviews, and I think you talk a lot
Thank
about
you.
giving back, and I think that underpins a lot of what you do. Yes, like you, it's all about writing and your own work, and you want to get your work out there. But yes, it's I think what you've done so well, Michael, and I said it backstage is I think you're organically building a community, and you're organically becoming a really integral part of the community and the space
Thank
that
you.
I occupy. And I think has been key to why your star is rising rather rapidly.
Thank you.
So I think that's and it's in you're an easy fella to root for, right?
I appreciate that. Uh,
So
I love the online writing community. There's so many like wonderful interactions that I've had, but I also feel very strongly that it's not exactly one to one. But as much as you put into the community, you get out of it. Like, yes, I work really hard, and yes, I do a lot of things with like the writing reviews and the podcast, and just kind of like hyping people up on social media who are like doing really cool things. But I've gotten a lot out of the community as well, and I thoroughly believe it's because you get as much out of it as you put into it.
oh, well said, extremely well said. So I'm curious, what makes you want to write a book? What makes you want to be an author? Why write? And if you'll, I crave your indulgence here. I frankly was somewhat ignorant to exactly what noble dark meant in terms of being a subgenre.
Mhm.
But I learned quickly, and I once I knew I was going to read your book, I decided, well, I better find out what this is about, because the man is marketing it as noble dark, so I better know what that means more precisely. But yeah, so what made you want to write? How long have you been writing? What made you want to write a noble dark fantasy?
Yeah. I would say I don't think my story is my origin story as a writer and author is not terribly unique. I've always wanted to be a writer. I've been obsessed with stories, and I love story craft, whether it's movies or shows or books. I just love a well crafted story. I love the manipulation of like words and medium and music in order to just to convey stories, and I find them very interesting. So it doesn't really matter what medium I'm looking at. I've always really enjoyed them. And I'll be watching movies, and I talk a lot when I watch movies and shows. And thank God my wife is not bothered by this, because I'll be like, "Ooh, that was really good," or "Oh man, that scene would have been better if they just withheld this dialogue a little longer." And just I think about these things all the time and have for a long time. But life is life, and you grow up and you're like, okay, that's awesome, I would love to be able to do that, but I need to be able to feed myself and take care of my family and be an upstanding member of society and all those things. So I took care of all that stuff first. I did a little bit of writing in like high school, the kind of things that like kids do that usually it's a rip off of whatever their favorite thing is at the time. And then I took a few writing courses in college as a minor, and then I wrote on and off for like 10 years after that. Not really doing anything though. Like I would start a story and then I would abandon it because, it was hard and I didn't really have the discipline to do it. And it wasn't until I was getting older and, like I said, approaching my 30s that I really decided, no matter what has changed in my life, this is something I've always wanted, and it's not going to happen unless I do it. Like, there's oh, books are falling off my shelf behind me. Sorry about that. But it's not going to happen unless I take the steps to do it, unless I put in the work and really learn the discipline to sit down and write every day or every other day and do these things. And I was like, okay, I want this. Let's make it happen. And it didn't happen immediately. Like, I stumbled a lot. There were still a lot of times where I would start writing and then I would stop for 8 or 9 months out of a time. And it took a while to really learn that discipline of committing myself to this dream. And but once I got there, I realized that I loved wearing myself away to achieve it, because I'm a big fan of like stoicism and stoic philosophy and stuff like that. And a big part of that is, uh, this is going to sound depressing, but life is suffering. No matter what you do, you are going to suffer. So you might as well suffer for the things that you want and that the dreams and the goals that you want, because it gives your suffering meaning. And I really hold that to heart. I've always had this mindset that I'm going to keep writing until one of two things happens. I succeed, and my reward is I get to keep writing, or I die and it's not my problem anymore because I'm dead. And it's kind of morbid, but it carries me through and it keeps me with a good attitude. And that carries into why I really like noble dark stories. For those of you who don't know, noble dark is, you have those like dark, gritty, almost grim dark kind of worlds where society or the world or the structure that people live in is really unfair in a lot of ways. But you still have people who are trying to be noble, who are trying to stick with their virtues, even when it's not easy, even when it's unfair, even when it costs them greatly. And I write this stuff, these kind of stories, because that's how I feel about real life. Like,
Mm,
there's so much in real life that I don't have control over. I'm only one person. I can't change everything, but I can control myself. I can control how I react to everything. And I can always choose to stand up every day and try again. And I just love that. And I want to write stories that remind people of that. These stories have existed for many years, and noble dark stories are not really new. It's just a coined phrase that I'm using that other people have used before, that I'm just trying to draw attention to, that, hey, these are dark stories. Like, bad things are going to happen them, but we're going to have characters that we root for. And sometimes they're going to make the wrong decision, and sometimes they're going to be petty, but ultimately they're going to try to be a better person and try to make a better world in a place that is difficult.
wow. That's extremely inspiring. And I wonder,
Thanks.
how do you feel knowing that, I believe that it's more than just that subgenre category or a box we put around what you write, but it's also philosophy.
Yeah.
How do you feel when you read the more, if you do, clearly you've definitely heard of it, even if you don't read a lot of it, the darker, more grim, dark,
Yeah.
nihilistic approach to fantasy, where okay, the world's are bleak and the people are bleak and the people are not necessarily good people striving
Yeah.
to do the right thing. They are people either just struggling to survive, or people who are going to sink to the lowest points of depravity. And how do you feel about those stories?
I like to read grimdark. It's not my main series that I read. I usually like I said, I like to read dark stories with noble characters. But I do like to read grimdark as well. Mark Lawrence is one of my favorite authors in that direction. And God, he is so talented. And absolutely love the things that he wrote. I read the first grimdark I actually ever read was, I want to say, in my early 20s. It was The Prince of Thorns, the
Oh
first of the
yeah,
Broken
yeah,
Empire
oh
series.
yeah, oh yeah,
And even with that opening scene, I was
yeah,
reading it and I was like, holy hell, I did not know that this was an option.
yeah.
And it just punches you in the gut and it makes you feel uncomfortable, but it's okay to feel uncomfortable. It's okay to sit with these uncomfortable feelings and address things that you maybe, hopefully, I pray that you do not deal with in real life. But yeah, I did Mark Lawrence, and then I read a lot of Brian Staveley. His Unhewn Throne trilogy is really good. But all that being said, I can't live there. I can't constantly read grimdark because it does affect me. It affects my mood, my disposition on life, and I'm admittedly very easily by the affected by the media that I enjoy and that I intake. So I kind of have to like dip my toes into grimdark every once in a while and be like, okay, that was fun. Now I need some people that I can root for. But I do understand the appeal because it is very visceral and it does feel it can feel kind of good to read a book where like, you know what? These I'm not going to curse because I don't know if we're cursing on here, but people
Oh
are
yeah.
getting the okay, people are getting the shit kicked out of them and sometimes people freaking deserve that. And that's satisfying to see. And sometimes you just want a guy or a character that just shows up and you know what? That guy's being an asshole and he deserves to be popped in the face, so we pop in the face. But the type of people that generally do that are also assholes. So, that's how we get grimdark.
Yeah, yeah, it can definitely be a place that is hard to go sometimes, and you're
Yeah.
right. I think it can also be cathartic, but I think writers write it, um, not necessarily even just because they see the world through that lens, but that it is a story. Like because I always find that even the darkest, most grim, dark, nihilistic book there's typically is some slim thread of hope in the end, and
Yeah.
that's
A
still
little bit.
kind of the point, right?
Hmm.
But in any case, I'm fascinated. I would thank you for that. I was fascinated to hear what made you write what you write. It's extremely well written, and
Thank you.
clearly I can see the hopefulness in your story, which to be honest with you, after I read a ton of grimdark, I write
Yeah.
what's considered moral grimdark. People have
Yeah.
coined it as moral grimdark, and it is really refreshing to read something once in a while that
Yeah.
that doesn't feel so bleak in terms of the characters of
Yeah.
it is a nice change of pace, right? And I wouldn't
Mhm.
call Crownfall a palette cleanser because it is still quite dark,
Yeah.
as said, noble dark. But again, it's exceptionally well written, and
Thank you.
I would like you, in your own words, to tell us a bit about what Crownfall is all about.
Yeah, here. I'll even hold it up. So yes, Crownfall. My quick pitch for it is that it is about a thief, a magical engineer, and a noble lady as they are radicalized against the viceroy of their nation. They all come from different walks of life, and they're slowly pulled into this conflict against the leader of their nation, who is backed by a foreign power that took over the country a little over a decade ago. And they don't know each other from the very beginning, and their stories interact very lightly throughout the story, some heavier than others, until we get to the culmination of everything that comes together. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed writing it. I learned so much creating this first book. And I really appreciate the comments about it being so polished and stuff. It's not the first time I've gotten these, and I 100% have to defer a lot of that gratefulness actually to my wife, who is also my editor and who refused to let me be lazy. Because there are so many times where I'm just like, yeah, this is good enough, and she's like, no, you can do better. We both know you can do better. Work on it a little bit more. And in the moment, I will be totally honest. I did not always appreciate that, but afterwards, what Crownfall became, it's absolutely phenomenal. Like, yes, I was the author. Yes, I wrote it, but it would not be what it is today without her feedback, without being able to bounce ideas off of her, and why it's polished, why it's so polished, and why I get those compliments today is a big part because of really her like supporting me and getting me here. I really appreciated it.
I
Like
can't
even
lie.
the book is dedicated to her.
I can't lie. I absolutely love that. Kudos to your wife.
Ah,
You are very blessed.
he might be
I
listening.
We share that in common. That my wife is. I mean, I have a professional editor, but my wife is my first editor, the one who sees the manuscript before anyone else, and I have to
Nice.
get through her vetting before it's and it can be harsh
Yeah.
sometimes. The
Yeah.
criticism
Yes,
that she
it
holds
can be
me
difficult.
accountable, like yours does, and
Yep.
but if were it not for her, I don't feel my books would be if my books are considered well written. I don't believe they would be as
Oh,
well written
100% they are.
absolutely without
Like,
my
I love your prose. I was telling you about this before we got on. Like, I've only read the first book so far, and I'm very excited to get into the rest of your series. And sorry that I'm turning this on you a little bit, but like, absolutely astonishing prose. Very so poignant observations of life throughout the story that just felt so natural dropped into the story. Really good stuff.
Well, thank you, sir. And again, I feel like, your writing is exceptional. And
Thank you.
I think the thing about what really got me of all the facets of your book that I love, the characterization, because I'm a character driven reader. I know a lot of people say
Mm,
that, but yeah, if you want to describe me, I'm a character driven reader. I'm a character driven writer.
yeah,
And
yeah,
and I can't
definitely are.
lie. We talked a bit about Grimdark. We talked a bit about Noble Dark. I am typically drawn to the more morally ambiguous characters, and
That's fair. A lot of people are.
I'm very much that person that you know um I feel like, so for me, like Amara was my favorite character, right?
Oh, easily. I was thinking it while you were saying it. I'm like, he probably loved Amara.
But not just because I don't want to be spoilers, and I even would love you to talk about your characters, your three main characters. That it was so much. It was what she was dealing with, what she's trying to accomplish, including like you know, parents' health issues, like all the things she's
Mm,
trying to do, restore her house, like, but willing to and realizing what she
yep,
might
yep,
have to do that.
yep.
Was that to me is all your storylines were compelling, but that was the one that really like
Yeah.
grabbed me, that I didn't want to let go, and I couldn't wait to get back to her every time. But tell us a bit about your three characters, because they're three very different characters, and they're all really well drawn. But
Thank
can you
you.
tell us a bit about your characters?
Yes. So I will start with the fan favorite, Amara. She's the one that most people do enjoy the most. I've gotten the most compliments about her. She's usually people's favorite POV, though the other two uh, kind of tag pretty close. But Amara is a clear winner for a lot of people. And for those of you that don't know, she starts the story. She's a very young, noble lady, head of her house, but her house has really fallen under like financial and social destitution. Sorry, there's a loud motorcycle outside. Uh, and she's been trying to like crawl it back to where it used to be to reclaim the glory that her parents really established. And she's fighting a lot of different things to do that. She's fighting political upheaval with her country being occupied and taken over by this foreign empire. She's dealing with her mother, who has a steeply declining illness that makes her mental faculties diminished, and she had like the death of her father, and she's dealing with all of these things. Just that's the opening for her. And she starts out the story as like kind of ruthless as she's trying to get these things done, because she knows what kind of person she is, and she knows that if she's going to survive in this difficult world, she's going to have to make deals, and she's going to have to do some things that might be a little tasteless, maybe not really above board, and she's fine with that. And a lot of the story is her exploring, one, can she keep it all together? And two, how far is she willing to go to get what she wants? And I think a lot of people are drawn to that. Plus, a lot of people are drawn to a capable woman.
Yes.
And she absolutely is that. Like, she goes into a room and she takes control of it. And I absolutely love that about her. Moving on to, I'll do Jelert Agaro is the other character. He is a magical engineer from the Empire that is occupying this island, and he is fresh to this island nation where the story takes place at the very beginning of the story. He's a very talented magical engineer of the technology, the magical technology that operates the Empire, and that they have brought to this island and kind of like uplifted it as far as like infrastructure and such goes. And he's leaving the Empire and coming to this place because he's made amazing things in the past, and they didn't quite get used the way that he expected them to and wanted them to. So now he's looking for a fresh start in a place that people don't know him as much. And maybe he can make the things that he wants to make in order to uplift and improve society. But he is walking into a bit of a viper's nest of this situation. And I like him. He has a very special place in my heart because he's kind of like this idealistic guy. Even though he has been through some real things, he's still trying to hold on to those virtues of like, just because I believe this thing is good, it should be good enough. And he deals with the ramifications of what that means of having these ideals, but not having the strength to defend them. And I really like that about his story. And then Kindelheim, my thief, he is my revenge plot. He is my action hero. God, he's just a little ball of rage and frustration, and I like him a lot too. He's how I really deliver the other magic system in the story, and he's how I deliver the negative sides of what has happened to this island now that the empire has shown up. And yes, we have all this wonderful technology, and thank you, we have these amazing things that we can now do, but it cost, and it cost a lot, and that cost is covered up by a lot of things, but he knows the truth.
Yeah, and those are three really, like I said, they're fabulous characters. It's funny. Um, I spent most of the book feeling really bad for Jellert because
Yeah,
the naivety, right? Like
yeah,
he's come, to do better for himself, to do
yeah,
better things for society. He honestly believes that, essentially being a government tool is going to be for the betterment.
yeah.
But clearly that's not the way it works out.
Not
No
quite.
spoiler there.
Not
And
fully.
I felt really bad for him, right?
Yeah,
Because
that's fair.
as you mentioned, the idealism, right? Hang on to idealism, and we've all known people like that who,
Yeah,
they are striving for the best. However, they're not quite seeing the whole playing field, and perhaps
hmm,
are leaving themselves rife and exposed for being taken advantage of in a lot of ways.
oh
So,
yeah.
but a great character, and Hindle was, yeah. You described him so aptly. Of course, you wrote him. So, you know,
Yeah.
I love characters that, frankly, I love to see characters who their arc seems to be it's based on a thirst for retribution. And
Ah, it's so satisfying.
what is that going to do to them? Are they going to get it? If they get it, what's that going to
Mhm.
when they get what they're looking for, if they get what they're looking for, if they don't die first, or if they fail for some reason, but
Yeah,
even if they succeed, what will that do to them? What will they be like when they come out at the other end? So
yeah.
those arcs are absolutely fabulous. So yeah, just
Thank
amazing,
you.
amazing, amazing characters. I want to quickly put up. We see Intentional Ventures. Hey, thanks for coming
Ah,
and supporting. We appreciate it. Come and support Michael. Another amazing booktuber, the awesome Britain. Okie, what's going on?
hey man.
How you doing?
I,
Michael Peel. Good names, good names. Yep. Check out Britain's channel. Uh awesome stuff. Some Okie dude. It's got some great content on there.
mhm.
Like great reviews, interviews, chats, hangout, just
Great
plain
show.
old hangout chats, just really, really good long form stuff on Britain's channel. So check
Yeah,
his
I heard he's got an interview that he did recently with Scott Killian Love. I'm looking forward to watching that one.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Britain's awesome. He's got some good stuff. Plus, he's an
Yeah.
Oklahoma Sooners fan, so I
Yeah,
can't
he's
help.
not that far from me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
is that around where you are?
No, so he's in Oklahoma, which is the state right above where I'm at
Yep,
in Texas.
you're in Texas. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So yeah, like I can drive probably within a day to be at his
Oh
place.
yeah. I've been to Texas.
Oh, nice.
It's quite where
It's
I've been.
large.
I've only been to Houston.
Okay.
So uh, all I can say is that just like the saying goes, everything's bigger in Texas.
Oh yeah.
Everything's bigger in Texas. The way they do things, the from the food to, yeah,
That's
it's
huge.
quite an interesting, colorful place to be. Haven't been there in a long time, but yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, I'm not a Texas native, but I've lived here, I want to say like 8, 9 years, and I've
oh
been enjoying it so far. It's the longest place I've probably lived for most of my life.
oh wow, okay, fabulous. And it says, talked to Scott Love last night.
Nice.
Fantastic. Got to catch up with Britain's channel and watch that. So, always good to see you, my friend. Um, yeah. So you so you've written this awesome book, and when it's done, and after your
Mhm.
wife, puts you through the paces, and you get it edited, so was there a methodology to how you would publish? Did you know right away you're going to go indie? Did you think you're going to pitch it to an agent? Like, what was the thought process behind all of that?
Yeah. Originally, I was 100% planning to try the traditional market, go through the indies trenches and stuff, or the indie trenches, the query trenches and all that. That was 100% my plan when I initially started this. And I thought, I could do that. And if it doesn't work out for like a year or however long, I always have indie as a backup. I can always do that. But then as I got more and more integrated into this community and started doing the podcast and interviewing people and talking to more people who had done the indie route, I was like, I don't think I want to go traditional. Maybe someday, but for this first story, this is my first story. I want my hands on all the pieces. I want to do everything. I want to understand how this all works. I want to be able to pick my cover artist because, like, I love how beautiful this book is.
Gorgeous cover.
Katerina Belikova, Ninja Joe on Instagram, she's amazing. And like Adrian did like the cover design and stuff like that, and all the lettering on the inside. And it's a beautiful book on the inside. There's a lot of like art and crystals and all these cool things. Um, I love doing all of that. But I fully intended to go traditional originally until I just met everybody and went, "Oh, indie is like a lot more viable than I thought it was." And I feel like a lot of people figured that out eventually. And there's nothing wrong with going traditional. Traditional publishing has a lot of advantages that indie doesn't, and so does vice versa. I really think the best thing, and this is my personal opinion and just what I've observed in the community and people doing it, is to go a little both. Like if you can, try to do both. And I eventually do plan to write something that I'll try to take into the traditional market, but for now, I'm very happy with indie. I'm so glad that I did because I got to choose and do everything, and I was luckily very supported by indie authors around me. And I have like a few groups that I'm a part of that I can really talk questions with people who have done it before and just be like, hey, I am a ball of anxiety and I have no idea how any of this works. Please answer my questions. And they were all super patient. And it was like Adrienne M. Gibson and MJ Kuhn and Crystal Matar and Greta Kelly. And like all of them were amazing for trying to figure out all this stuff because when you are indie publishing, it's very scary when you haven't done it before. You're worried that you're going to make a mistake that's going to cost you thousands of dollars because it costs a lot of money to self publish and do all these things and get cover art and do all this stuff. And you don't want to make a mistake, especially a costly one. But that's again another great thing about the community around here is that there are people who are always willing to reach back and pull you forward, and then you pay it forward by reaching back and pulling other people forward with you. And I just love the online community. I can't really say enough about it.
Yeah, I feel the same, and it's so gratifying to hear you say that. And I think certainly, no matter what venue you choose to publish, Michael, in the end, I think you're going to be successful.
Thank
Whether you
you.
dip your toe into trad but also too, I think what you said was very salient in that. I honestly think, in my opinion, I mean, I take for what it is that the industry is changing to the degree that I
Yeah.
think that in going forward, most authors will be doing both to some degree,
Yeah.
whether that's indie slash small press or indie big trad or hybrid, some form of
Yeah.
there. I think the benefits in terms of sometimes you just have a certain series or a standalone or something, a short story, something that fits into one or the other,
Hmm.
that you're going to want to try and uh do that in that particular format for a lot of reasons, a lot of benefits, and then something else is totally different that what, if it's best as this. So,
Yeah.
and I think that's the way of the future. I look at some brilliant authors like Stephen Arion, for example, traditionally published, Orbit, popular
Yep.
series, blah, blah, and then he's like, you know what, I'm gonna try this self-publishing thing too. Because the when I talk about the industry changing, the evolutions in that, as you know, and as we talk more frequently, I'm sure you've talked about the pressures for, because of financial, things changing fiscally in the traditional public market, traditional published
Yeah.
authors more and more become responsible for their own marketing and
Yeah.
doing all the things, not perhaps the formatting and all that, but a lot of the other things that typically indie authors that characterize the indie journey. Well, other
Mhm.
trad authors having to do more of that now. So a lot of them are thinking, well, okay, if I'm going to do that, then this particular series, well, I'd like to maybe see if I can get some higher royalties here, or
Yep.
maybe I'd like to have, like you said, more creative control, because I really didn't want to send this to my publisher who's gonna, ask me to chop it in half potentially,
Mhm.
or move this character, et cetera, et cetera. And for their legitimate reasons. Like I said, traditional publishing, they have their reasons for why they do things. It's all about
Mhm.
selling books and but at the same time, how they pragmatically do things may or may not work best. But that said, like for
Yeah.
the creative side, sometimes it can be very unfulfilling when your story gets gutted potentially, or at least changed, right?
Yeah.
Um,
It can happen. Yeah.
yeah,
Like there's a lot of advantages to doing indie, but I will say there are a lot of advantages to doing traditional too. Like the biggest one is the distribution arm.
yes,
You may not always get like marketing support, and you may have to do a lot of that yourself. But the distribution on traditional publishing is a lot more difficult to match on indie.
yeah.
And indie, you have to do it yourself, and it's a lot harder to do. It takes a lot of time and effort. And I would also say another thing that traditional publishing does is like if you don't want to be involved in the cover and the typing and stuff like that, like you just don't have that kind of creative desire or creative outlet that like really draws you. Traditional is really good for that too because they will take care of that for you. And there's also the financial of having to pay for cover art, which can be very expensive. Yes, you can get very affordable cover art at a lot of different places, but especially in fantasy, a lot of people go for that custom art, and that's expensive. Like the editing is very expensive. And that those are a lot of reasons to go traditional. But I do think the creative control was worth it for me 100%.
Well, that's good to hear. And like I said, I'm sure no matter in the future if you go trad, you'll do really well there too.
Thank you.
Um, so now and I want to again give you credit for. I found that one of the things that I was so wowed by with you is just how great your launch was, the marketing campaign, the way you
Thank
set
you.
yourself up for success. Right. I know you said great mentors and people like Adrian, an expert in
Yeah.
those areas. But can you tell us a bit about what that was like? What were the things you did to prepare? What were the things that you found that worked, didn't work? Perhaps
Mhm.
especially for those who are listening that are aspiring authors, some tips.
Yeah.
Like how did all that go?
Yeah. So again, it a lot of it did start with Adrian, just talking to him and getting some advice from him and watching his launch with Mushroom Blues.
Yeah,
Yeah, because a lot of what I did was I looked at what he did for his tour. I even looked at his tour release schedule that he had online. He was like, "Yeah, just look at that. Look at all the places that I went to and just try something similar. You can even reach out to the same people and stuff like that." It gives you an idea. There's a list. Like he practically put a list of different podcast shows and different blogs that you could reach out to. And by the time I was doing my own release, like the landscape of podcasting wasn't exactly the same. Some shows were no longer existing or new shows had popped up in their place and stuff. And I just reached out. I wrote a bunch of emails way in advance before I was releasing. It was like several months. If you haven't done it before, like most podcasting things, a lot of times it's podcasts don't really schedule their episodes or who they're going to be interviewing and stuff for like unless it's like a month away. But I was reaching out like 3 4 months, sometimes a little more. Yeah, like I like doing schedule. We scheduled this a while ago. I like that we did that. Um, but I reached out to a bunch of people, and all I did was I went online, I searched up different podcasts that talked about books within my area. I write fantasy, and there's a lot of podcasts that talk about fantasy books. So I reached out to them, and their emails, or it's all on their YouTube channels and stuff. And I just sent them an email. And the email is really easy. It's just, hey, I'm Michael Vadney. I am a debut fantasy author. My book, Crownfall, comes out on this date. I'm looking to schedule a book tour between these dates. And I had a 2-month period that I was aiming for. And to help, I would love to be part of your show to talk about Crownfall, talk about writing, or anything that's really relevant to this stuff. And to help you with your decision, here's the cover of the book, which I haven't released to the public, so it makes you feel a little special. And I also give you a little blurb and information about the book. And they get this like little bit of insight of like, ooh, there's this cool thing coming. Um, and I hope that helps with their decision. It helps that like this is a beautiful book. It's very eye
Yes.
catching.
Yes.
When I've gone to like physical events and sold a table, like it draws people's eyes because it just looks cool. And I just waited. And there were a lot of people that didn't get back to me. And that's totally fine because all of us podcasters, at least like 99% of us, this is like our secondary or tertiary job. We have a normal day job. I have a normal day job. We have families you got to take care of. You got kids, you got pets, you got responsibilities, you got to clean your house, you got to pay your bills. And then when you get done with all that stuff, you finally have time to podcast. So don't take it offensive if someone doesn't get back to you because people are busy and they got a lot going on. But just put it out there. You get a lot more yeses than you think you will. And I scheduled the tour and it was super fun. The crazy thing was, I originally had the release date 2 months earlier. I had wanted to release in February, but I ended up releasing in April because just the editing took longer.
Yeah.
Because my wife was like, we can do better, and I was like, you're right. I'll try to work harder. And we weren't going to get it done in time. So we ended up delaying the release 2 months later. And even then, by the time we made that decision, I'd already scheduled almost the entire tour. So then I had to reach out to all these blogs and tell them, like, hey, I'm really sorry. I'm delaying by 2 months. Can we reschedule? Every single person said a yes. No one gave me a hard time about it except for Mike Molman because he was cracking jokes at my expense. But
Mike,
that is the professional curmudgeon that is Mike, and it
I
was
love we
funny.
love Mike. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Uh, but yeah, I made out a schedule. I made a bunch of like graphics to go with it. I like the whole schedule is on a tour for a graphic that I just made in Canva and then eventually in Adobe when I started getting better at that. I did guest blogs on Fanfiatic. I did a bunch of interviews. I went on other people's shows to hype up their books. Like Michael D. Melwassel, he had a Kickstarter going on and he was doing live streams on TikTok. And I was like, hey, man, yeah, I'll jump on there. I would love to help hype up your book. And it's just about making sure people know that you exist, that you have a book coming out, that that book exists, and actively participating in the community. It was 2 months long. I did, I think I want to say about 25 stops. It was a
Wow.
lot. Yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend doing that many. It may have been overkill. But the nice thing about that is you couldn't get away from Crownfall. If you were in my circle or
Yeah.
near my circle, you were going to see my book. And I'm sorry if you didn't want to, but I was going to make sure you did.
And I
Yeah.
think that was
Go ahead.
fabulous. Sorry, go ahead, please.
Oh no, I was gonna say that and like kicking off the digital book tour with a cover reveal and getting a bunch of people to help you with the cover reveal. Those are the two big things. And like soon as you kick off your tour, as soon as you kick off your cover reveal, have pre-orders ready because that was a huge thing that made the tour successful for me. Was like during the whole time I was touring, there was something I could point people toward. You could go to my website and do pre-orders, or you could go to Amazon and do pre-orders for the ebook. And it was just a way to build traction before the book was like 100% ready.
I think that it was so well done, so well
Thank you.
executed. It stood out to me because I've been involved in a lot of book releases and helping, like you, to helping to promote book releases, help
Thank you.
promote book launches, and do cover
Yeah.
reveals, and yeah, extreme, very, very like everything you do. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, very well done, and
Thank
congratulations, of
you.
course, on the success
I
of
appreciate it. I've
the book
been
launch.
very proud of it.
Um, so Crownfall's out. It's doing
Yes.
well. It's very visible. It's got great reviews. It's
Thank you.
it's well received critically. What now?
Ooh, now I'm way too busy for a lot of different reasons because just because this is done does not mean the work is over. One, there's like the marketing; you got to keep doing that to make sure that people know that Crownfall exists. Because there's definitely like a lot of hype during the tour, and then it dies down a little bit, and then you have to do the workhorse. You have to put in the constant effort to put it out there. And I'm still learning a lot of that, trying a bunch of different things, but also trying to balance it out with, again, the purpose is to be an author. The purpose is to write stories. So if I'm not doing that, what am I doing? But now I'm working on a few short stories for a few anthologies. One of them that I can talk about is the Rings of Adventure anthology that I'm part of. That comes out on Kickstarter in September. I wrote a short story for that I absolutely love it. Um, it is actually a prequel to a series that I am also outlining right now. I'm very excited for this outline. I'm very excited for the story because I am a huge fan of time travel stories. They're really hard to do well and very easy to mess up. So I always really appreciate when a time travel story is done very well. So I decided going into this next project, I'm going to write a series this time. I'm planning for it to be 5 books. And it's going to be the Lycanius trilogy by James Islington meets Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, the anime. And I'm so excited for that. Like, ooh, like here, I got a quick little pitch for it that I've been
Oh
telling
yeah.
people. And what it is, it's about two brothers who travel back in time to save their mother from an accident. She died in this accident when they were very young. They spent years learning how to travel back in time so that they could save her. When they do, they discover that she never died in the accident. She faked her death and left the family. They are then yanked back into the present before they can find more answers there, and now are looking for her to figure out why she left, what has she been doing this whole time, and why did any of this happen?
Wow. I
Yeah,
love the premise. I think that
thank
is
you.
really cool. Wow.
I'm so excited for it. Like it's very excited. Besides that, the other thing that I'm working on is I'm a big audiobook listener. There is no way Crownfall would not have an audiobook.
Yeah.
And I've decided that I'm actually going to try to do it myself. I like doing voices. I have a lot of the equipment anyways because I'm a podcaster. And so I wanted to try to do it. I've started recording. I have an aggressive schedule to try to get the recording done by the end of this month and then spending a lot of time editing. I don't think I'm going to make that goal, but I like to set aggressive goals because it makes it so that I get more done than if I would have had a more easier goal to achieve, even if I don't succeed. Um, but yeah, I say those are the big projects that I've going on right now. Very busy.
Well, ambitious, sir. Kudos to you. Audiobook narration is difficult. It's way more difficult
Oh
than
my
people
god.
think a lot of people understand. Kudos to
Yeah.
all the audiobook narrators, especially out there, because the job you do is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I absolutely I have the utmost respect for you for doing that your own. I know
Thank
it's
you.
you have the voice. Let's be candid. You
Thank
have the
you.
voice, right? You got the silky tones there. So
I appreciate it.
I think it's going to be, like everything else you do, first rate. But yeah, challenging. Like every
It
time
is.
anybody asks me to do a reading
Yeah.
or for my book, like I fumble over all the words. I have to do
Yeah.
6 takes just to get a paragraph. Like wow. So hats off to all those, especially those authors who are doing
Yeah.
it themselves. Great. But the it's really smart play. The demand for
Mhm.
audiobooks is just good. I can't every week I feel question. Hey, when's the audiobook for book 2 coming out? What's it? But they're expensive
Uh,
to produce. Expensive to produce. And
yes,
for
they
me,
are.
so because I've already had one for book 1, I'd like to get, voice act. I could never do myself. I don't have the talent. And I don't have the equipment, and I don't have the desire, but I think if you do it yourself and do it well, it's a really great way to enhance your sales and the
Yeah.
options to get your book. But one day I will have audiobooks, God willing, for the rest of the series. But yeah, for now it's the first book because the other thing too is your first book will always in a series will always outsell everything else. That's just the reality.
Yeah.
So investment wise, in terms of return on investment, like the first one is the one that I think if you can only stop at one in a series, try
Yeah.
and get the first one done. So, but there's some excellent advice too. You've given a lot of great tips and advice in this conversation, Michael, for authors that I think
Thank you.
a lot of people will be able to latch onto and use and help them in their journey.
I hope so.
Um, what about the beast that is social media? Eh, how do you keep up on with everything else? Then that social media presence that is
Yeah.
also required. It's part of the marketing promotion thing. It's boosting others too. But
Yeah.
how do you keep up with that?
A lot, way too much work, honestly. I check social media way too often. I'm always trying to check it less and not do it as much as I am because I don't think it needs as much attention as I give it. And social media is one of those things that it will take as much attention as you will give it, and you got to be very careful with it. You got to regulate yourself, and it's really hard to do that. And I think I'm constantly failing at doing so, but I'm always trying to have the intention of doing better at it. As far as like how my strategy is for it, it's constantly evolving. But I would say for the most part, two-thirds of it, I try to be about not my book.
Yeah.
Like, not at least not primarily my book. Like, one-third of my content, it'll just be me talking about Crownfall and be like, "Hey, just a reminder, it's on sale on my website at michaelvadney.com," and things like that, and just doing cute little things like that. But the other two-thirds, I wanna be talking about other people's books. I wanna be talking about, one, either just my experience as trying to move from hobbyist writer to professional author, like, that's part of why I do podcasting is to document that journey. So I'll do a lot of shorts where it's just like, hey, I did this thing. It was super scary, but it worked out. And this is what my experience was. And that's what I did with like when I went to local bookstores and I was trying to give them copies of Crownfall to sell on their shelves. And it was incredibly nerve wracking. The first one, I stumbled so bad, but because I did bad on the first one, I got that experience, got the nerves out. I was able to talk to other people, and I'll do like short videos about that. And lately, what I've been doing is trying to talk more about just books in general. Like, these are five grim dark fantasies that I really enjoyed. Like, list content tends to do really well. But my overall strategy is also, again, just looking at what other people did. And I was like, oh, someone made this post like this. It worked really well for them. You know, what's something like that that I can do? I don't want to copy and paste what they're doing, but what's my version of that? Um, like, and sometimes you can do like a nod and an homage to other
Yeah.
people and stuff like that. Like Aaron N. Hall has like the caveman cooking shtick that he does that works really well from him. And I put together like a sound booth for the audio recording that I've been like working on to record Crownfall. And I had to put together like a desk and a chair and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try a caveman cooking style of putting this together and just going like filming it and doing different parts and just going, yeah, and like moving it all around. And it was really fun to do. I don't think it was like worth the attention it got. It wasn't a lot, but it was just fun. And that's really what you want to capture with your social media. Try to make it fun for you, because if you hate it, if you absolutely abhor doing any of it, it's going to be hard to do. It's going to feel like a bigger mental load than it is. And it's going to be a lot harder to not show that on the camera and what you're doing. But if you're enjoying it and you're having fun and you just like talking to a camera and just pretending like you're talking to a friend about, like, hey, this is how my day went, find ways to make it work for you. And that will come across on the screen as like genuine enjoyment, genuine connection with the people around you.
Really smart advice for how to manage social media for genuine engagement. Really
Thank you.
savvy advice, Michael, that I think a lot of people again can benefit from. Quickly, I'd like to, as we're winding down, I'd like to know about, if you don't mind, your
Yeah.
writing influences. You know, what were the writers that made you want to write books like Crownfall? Who are the
Hmm.
writers that you've read recently that impressed you, influenced, perhaps more on the influence side, writers that you want to read that you haven't got to, that
Hmm.
their work intrigues you, like you talk about other
Yeah.
authors.
Oh yeah. I would say like my first like author love, like the first author that I was like, this is my favorite author growing up was easily R.A. Salvatore. Right behind me, there's a really beaten up book called The Spear Wielder's Tale. It's the oldest book I've owned. I've read it probably 7 or 8 times, and that's like the omnibus version where it has like the trilogy of the Spear Wielder's Tale, and I've read that a lot. I've read so many Drizzt Do'Urden books and the Cleric Quintet, and God, I want to say it's called Bedwire or something like that. A lot of R.A. Salvatore books. I read a lot of those in high school. A lot of Redwall, Brian Jacques, also a huge influence on my early reading. And I definitely try to capture like that Salvatore action in my writing because he does action like no one else, in my opinion. It's just so good. It's so crisp, and it's just very exciting to watch and to read. Um, and then, of course, you'll probably see it when you read my stuff. Is Brandon Sanderson is
Yeah,
definitely an influence on me. Like I use the term noble dark for my stories, but I think a lot of his stories would very much fall under that
yeah,
umbrella
yeah.
of in like Mistborn and Stormlight Archives and Warbreaker. I've read a lot of that stuff. And I would say if you read my stuff, you'll probably see two authors that the style is very similar to. And one of them is definitely Brandon Sanderson. And the second one was actually accidental because I didn't read this until afterwards and people started telling me that my writing was similar, was Chakraborty, the City of Brass series. And I had early writers or early readers read my stuff, and I'd
Hmm.
ask them like, "What is similar to this?" And that kept coming up, so I eventually read it, and I was just like, "Okay, yeah, I can see a similar style. I write a lot like how she does." And but I would say those are the ones that are really like that is where I'm at. That's where you'll read Crownfall and you can see the similarities to like Salvatore and
Yeah,
Sanderson style and Chakraborty and stuff like that. Where I want to go
yeah.
really bad is ML Wong. Like
Mm,
I love her writing so much. I love her prose. I love her descriptions. There is this part very early on in Blood Over Brighthaven where she describes a man who is hearing a foreign language, and she describes the foreign language as the serrated edge of a leaf. And it just stuck with me, and I can't get it out of my head. And there's just so many things like that that are really good. So I would love to get to the level of ML Wong. I want to get to the level of Mark Lawrence. I would throw you up there actually too with your pros.
thank
I'm
you.
just saying, I it made like reading a Drowned Kingdom. Like it starts off. I know I'm turning this on you again a little bit, and I apologize. But
Mhm.
it starts off with like a decent amount of like narrative summary to like set up the world and the politics and the characters and stuff like that. And I feel like I got 20 or 30 pages in reading it, and I'm just like, I was so entranced with what was happening because of the prose and how easily it carried me through what was happening. And I was just so engaged, even though it was very high level stuff. It took us a while to get to the characters. And I was still just so involved with what was happening, even though the dialogue just started finally. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just so swept away with what's happening here. Uh, yeah, really good stuff, man.
Thanks.
Um, but I hope to get to pros to that level because right now you'll I'm really good with the action. I'm really good with the
Yeah,
character
right.
growth and the changes. I got some banger lines in there that I
You do.
really enjoy,
You do.
but I really want to get to that level of really good prose. Not quite purple, but that's where I would like to head.
Yeah, and I think you're on your way, sir. And thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for the kind words about my books.
It's
I'm
great
not going
stuff,
to allow
man.
you to talk too much about it. One day, maybe you'll get me the honor, call me on your channel, and we can talk
We
about
definitely have to do that.
but I think that because the difference is like I don't read a lot of books like yours. I don't read a lot of I know you said some of my books, but your book is a book that it shouldn't normally work for me, but it really, really, really did.
Oh, nice.
And I found myself just
I
like, oh man,
gotcha.
like this is really, really good. Like, and I'm like, but this is really my thing. But you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And but that's always a really good sign,
Thank
right?
you.
So but yeah, but I could definitely see the Sanderson on the
Mhm.
page. I have to say, and this is not denigrating, certainly not denigrating Brandon Sanderson because he's one of the world's greatest writers. You know, I found like I really enjoyed your stuff. I've
Thank
had
you.
my ups and downs with Sanderson. Obviously, he's one of the world's
Same.
greatest writers. He's one of the best writers, science fiction fantasy writers on the planet. But I've had
Yep.
my ups and downs with his stuff. I know how capable and how
Mhm.
incredible an author he is. But I've had my issues. But people have issues with my writing. It's not.
He's
It's not.
not
That's
perfect.
not the
Yeah.
point. It's just that yeah. But I really think that you have an immense amount of talent, my friend. So I just hope
Thank
you
you.
writing. I'm looking forward to reading a lot more from you. So,
I
um,
appreciate it. I'm looking forward to getting it out there.
and of course, seeing more of you on Author Jason and all the great stuff you do in book two, reading more of your reviews on FanFi, and yeah, just seeing where you take this Michael Vadney thing and where that goes from here. So, um, but again, I don't want to keep you. I know you've been so generous with your time. I
I
could
know
talk
it's
to you
late
for
for you
hours.
too.
I talked to you for hours, but yeah, I do want to give you an opportunity as we're winding down. Anything you want to promote about Crownfall and the Crownfall things, all things
Yeah.
Crownfall, all things Michael Vadney, social media accounts where to follow you, where to buy your books, anything you'd like to say on that end.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back up. Crownfall. You can find Crownfall on michaelvadney.com. That's my website. If you're in the US, I can ship it to you. I still haven't figured out the international shipping, as it is a bit of a doozy trying to get that to work. But if you are international, you can get it on Amazon. You can get it through your local bookstore because they'll order it through Ingram Spark as well. So you always have that option. And if you're looking for the ebook, it's also on Amazon. You can find me on all the social medias at Michael_Vadney. I was lucky enough to snag the same one for all of them, so it's super easy. And you can find Author Adjacent on YouTube. I do new episodes every Friday, usually interviews. And a lot of times when I have bonus interviews, I'll throw them out on Mondays as well. I also wanted to talk about, yes, the Rings of Adventure anthology is on Kickstarter right now. It doesn't open until September, but you can hit that watch button and it will let you know when we finally start doing that. We have over 30 authors, I think, at this point. It'll come out in December, and it's the Rings of Adventure anthology, as will be. If you back it, you'll get like an advent calendar of short stories throughout the month of December. And that covers everything from fantasy, sci-fi, romance, horror, not Christmas themed, but coming out around Christmas, just to clarify. But yeah, I think that's all the socials and the tags and everything I'm involved in right now.
Wow, that sounds awesome. Well, again, I will be continuing to follow your journey. We'll be continuing to keep in touch. And again, thank you so
Yes.
much for the privilege of having you on the channel. Quickly for my shameless self promo stuff, Peel Sturt, Dragon King Saga, 7 books out. So sorry, 7 books in the series, 6 books out. The seventh and final book in the series is coming in early 2027, entitled Sure Steel.
Ooh.
So the book that most recently released is A Black Dragon on Red. That is book 6 of the Dragon Kingdom Saga, and that's this bad boy
Ah, that's
right
so pretty.
here. So, the Shapers of World, the CB Anthology, Shapers of World Anthology, my short story Forest Dark, very much linked to my main series, very much linked especially to this 6th book, but you can read it entirely separate. Some people feel it's a bit of a spoiler for a future book, the future 6th book. Some people feel it's more of an addition, so I leave that to the reader. But I think it's a really good entry into my writing and my world, and give you a really neat peek though into what you can expect if after reading the first book. If you're interested, Michael can certainly send you an arc if you want to take a delve. I think you might find
Ooh,
it intriguing.
I would
So
love that.
um and again, final book of the Drowned King saga coming out next year. The all the social medias at Peel Sturt Writes, Twitter/X, Blue Sky, Facebook, Instagram. So like Michael, I'm lucky enough to get that and keep it simple and have some
Nice.
continuity there. Um, the website peelstore.com. I'm also an assistant there with Before I Go Blog. Shout out to Beth Talbot, Before I Go Blog crew, and also a member of the incredible Grimdark magazine, again under Beth and Adrian Gibson and Adrian Collins and all the great managers that make that thing work. The channel also called the John King Saga, and the having the unique honor of interviewing just incredible people such as Michael on Six Elementals interviews. Wow, This is you were getting, as I roll toward
That's a lot.
my 100th episode coming up sometime next year. It's like,
Nice.
wow, I can't believe it, and it's been such a blast. And also with my incredible partner in Page Chewing, the interview series, Taylor from Maybe Two Pages. Check out her channel. She is phenomenal. One of the best interviewers out there. And so we have the Page Chewing series. And I think that's it.
You got through it.
Yeah.
Good job.
Thank you, sir. Listen, go get Crownfall. Amazing. Noble Dark. Check out Author Adjacent, Michael's channel, with some fabulous content. Check out his reviews on FanFi. Just, follow him on social media, and I think you'll find it very much worth your time. So for now, Michael and I will be signing off, and thank you everybody who joined in the chat, everyone who's going to watch this in the replay. You're what makes this type of long form content awesome. All right, so take care, everyone, and next time.